Events are, to me, that like I have a real respect for the craft and the art of them. When you think about, you have a room full of people, you literally hold them in the palm of your hand.
Mhm.
Everything that you say that comes out of your mouth can alter their perception of the world that they live in and their businesses, their lives, and whatnot. And when I think about it, is that throughout human history, humans have gathered at events to connect, to communicate, and engage in commerce. And if you look back at everything monumental that's happened throughout history, it has happened because of an event.
Welcome back to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, and today I get a chance to talk with somebody I'm honored to call both a friend and a powerhouse in the world of events and impact, my dear friend Brody Lee.
Hi, everyone.
Brody, what's up,
Hey, Shay.
Brody? Oh my God. One of the reasons why I love this man so much is he isn't just about business, he's about legacy and vision and making really a meaningful dent in the universe. And when I say universe, I mean like universe, not just, Earth. I mean the universe. He's just like from leading multiple ventures like Events Consulting Co. and the Superhero Business to helping coaches and consultants really amplify their income and their impact through high converting events. This man is definitely a force of nature. So get ready, all. We are going to pull back the curtain on what it really takes to leverage events. And I'm talking AI, I'm talking philanthropy, I'm talking about let's just grow business and create a lasting impact. Please welcome Brody Lee to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. How are you, my friend?
Oh my goodness, that was such a great introduction. Thanks, Shay.
I'm excited because, one, we might get some people going, wait, why is Shay and Brody talking on a podcast together? Don't they do like the same thing?
Not quite though. We play in the same arena, but I think we approach it from two very different ends. Actually, that's we're not competing. That's probably
Yeah.
the wrong movement. But one of the things that I love about what you do is that you are really, really, really passionate and committed to making sure that the wheels stay on the track of events. And
Mhm.
you're that like powerhouse and like you're the person behind the scenes that makes everything on stage look effortless. And where I come in and my approach is I hate doing that stuff. So it's wonderful that I have you in my corner helping out with that. But the consulting that we do really helps people to bring their event vision to life, from getting qualified bums on seats to designing the structure of the event so that it converts, which is a big piece that people miss. Most people just think, oh, I'm just going to present and then I might just add an offer in. Not like that. Everything comes out of your mouth has to be with the pitch in mind, and then like creating offers that literally, quite literally, sell themselves, and then mastering the art of platform pitching or selling from stage. And so what
Mhm.
we do is actually really, really integrated in a really, really powerful way. And I know that we're probably going to talk about this, but we're partnering on events together as well. We've got a big one coming up later this year, so I'm very excited about doing that. And one of the things that, just to kind of maybe kick this off, um, events are, to me, that like I have a real respect for the craft and the art of them. And the reason why is we're probably going to get into my story, and this event literally changed my life. But when you think about, you have a room full of people, you literally hold them in the palm of your hand.
Mhm.
Everything that you say that comes out of your mouth can alter their perception of the world that they live in and their businesses, their lives, and whatnot. And when I think about it, is that throughout human history, humans have gathered at events to connect, to communicate, and engage in commerce. And if you look back at everything monumental that's happened throughout history, it has happened because of an event. For example, if we look at the equality movement, Martin Luther King, massive speech at a huge event, right? If we look at the suffragette movement, massive protests, right? What about for workers getting the 8 hour day? All that happened through events, and then you fast forward into more recent things. Say for example, things like the launch of the iPhone and Steve Jobs like pulling it out of his pocket, and then his whole one more thing. Elon Musk doing things like the launch of his Tesla vehicles, and even if you look at political rallies as well,
Mhm.
these are some of the most powerful sales events in history.
Mhm.
Donald Trump was a master at doing those. He's still doing them, even though he's president. You look at people like Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, all of those people did these phenomenal events that are selling probably the most important thing. and that is a vision for the future of the people that they're around. And so when I think about my events and your events and all of the people that we serve, we are literally contributing to the evolution of the human race by these events. And the words that come out of your mouth trigger something in people's brains. Neurochemistry, neurobiology happens, right? We literally alter neural pathways as we speak to them. They then leave the room and then they have conversations with other people, and then their neural pathways and brains are impacted. And it's this whole ripple effect. So
Ripple effect.
I love events because I think that, look, and also just from a business point of view, and then I'll shut up. If you think of all of the strategies that are available to us in our space, in the consulting, coaching kind of space, um, most of the strategies have only been invented in the last 25 years. When we're recording this, it's 2025, with the rise of the internet. And events, like if choosing between something that has been around for 25 years versus something that's been around ever since humans kind of went from chimps into walking, talking humans, right? 300,000 years. I'm going to bet on the one that's been around for a very long time. And
Mhm.
that's why people like Tony Robbins have been doing the same event for 50 years. Like
Yeah.
50 years, he's been doing the same event and it works. The church has been doing the same event for 2025 years. And there, I would say that Jesus is probably the most success. I'm not religious, but he's the most successful salesperson of all time. Because 2025 years later, he's no longer around, and they're still meeting every Sunday at millions of churches all over the world and giving 10% of their salary over. It's like, yeah. So I could talk all day about that.
Oh my God, I haven't thought about it that way, but yeah, it's absolutely true. I love that. Well, and like when we through pandemic, people are like, "Oh my God, events are gonna die," and it's like, no, no, they don't
Mm,
die. They just shift a little
yeah,
bit. You
yeah,
know, 80% of what we did in person shifted, and
yeah,
only 20% changed was the way that we use the tech and the technology and how we engage with them. We
yeah,
still did them, and we had to do them
yeah.
because people are people and they need engagement, they need community, they need tribe. And the best way to do that is events, right?
1,000%. And like, so we did our first $1 million event, funnily enough, in the pandemic virtually. This was after many, many pushbacks. Australia had hit all these lockdowns, and I lost, actually, when Australia shut our borders for 2 years, and I lost 2020 was supposed to be my breakout year. I started my business late 2018, and I had 36 weeks of travel booked and stages and everything. I lost millions of dollars overnight when they shut down our borders. So we had to pivot, and it was great. It was a real blessing because it forced us to
Mhm.
really be creative and even have a deeper respect for the craft because we had to shift and whatnot. And that's the thing. I think, we've got all of these amazing tech things coming our way too, AI, all that sort of stuff. And it's just the next evolution of events. We're doing some really, really cool stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk about it.
We'll
But
get into it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But before we do that, like, okay, you seated and you talked a little bit, like a little bit, but how in the world did an event change your life?
Um, so I need to backtrack a little bit in my story. So I actually used to run events for Apple. And Steve would do his big product launches. This was like late 2000s, early 2010s. Steve would do his big product launches, and Apple's known for when you go into a store, you have that one-to-one sales conversation. They really revolutionized retail, right? And when we started having millions of people coming into our stores, we just couldn't do the one-to-one selling. It just wasn't feasible anymore. And so at this time, I was in Canada and I was a trainer at Apple, and we had to roll out training on how to sell one to many. So I trained their leadership and their executive teams on training their teams on how to sell one to many. So instead of having a one-to-one sales conversation, we'd put someone at the foot of a table and 40 people would be standing around, and then they'd be facilitating that sales conversation. So I kind of had this PhD style education in selling from the Apple Store stage, right? From Steve and from Apple and everything. And so that was something that I did. And so like selling from stage is my top skill set. But an event happened in my life in May 23, 2017, when I woke up from an accidental drug overdose that should have killed me. And we can go into the details of all that. I'll skip over the gnarly parts of it. But essentially, in that moment when I woke up, it was like I had this kind of moment of supreme clarity. And the question was like, is this really how you want to live your life? I'd been dancing with drugs and alcohol for the better part of 15 years at that point. And it came out that the accidental overdose came out because of some repressed memories of some really like awful stuff that had happened to me when I was younger. And it was such a blessing that this happened because when I woke up, I had this supreme clarity. It's my mum, my dad, a paramedic, and a police officer all staring down at me. And I was like, fuck.
Wow.
Like, something has to shift. And eventually I went to rehab. They told me I had another label, complex PTSD. And I'm like, cool. I don't want that. You've already called me an addict. I'm codependent, all these things that I don't actually identify with. And I just said, look, I respect the diagnosis, but I reject it. That's not going to be my story. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to end up dead. I've already institutionalized. So like, let's just keep it at that. I almost died, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so I went out on my own journey of personal development. Here's where this is where we come to your question. I went to the Landmark Forum, and that was my first personal development event. And it taught me a lot. It kind of realigned me to my values of integrity and all these sorts of things. But somebody at that event's like, "Oh, this is not your speed." Who's now one of my best friends. She's like, "You need to go to a Tony Robbins event." And funnily
Mm.
enough, my only reference point for a Tony Robbins event was somebody that I used to be involved with on the drug side of things, and they invited me to come to an Anthony Robbins event at that point. And he said, "Yeah, I'll get a hotel. We'll stay up all night smoking meth. That was my drug of choice and poison. And then we'll go and we'll walk on 3,000-degree hot coals." And I was like, this is bad shit. So when this friend, when she suggested I go, I'm like, no, 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 no. That's like a cult. I can't do that. Like they
Right.
do all this crazy stuff. It's drugs and like fire and everything. She's like, no, 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 you've got the wrong idea. Just go. Trust me.
Yeah.
And so I went to this event, and it's really funny. The previous year, when I was supposed to go to this event. I was like, it was around the time I was in rehab, all that sort of stuff. And so I had actually asked for a I just see your cat. Hi. I'd actually asked for a refund because of all the stuff that was happening. And the promoter, I didn't realize it was the promoter at that time, but they said, no, come next year. And I was really pissed at Tony Robbins. I was like, I'm going through hell at the moment. How dare you, sort of thing, not knowing it was the promoter. And so Tony has this if you ask for, like, you come on the first day, if you're not convinced by the end of the first day that this will change your life, I'll give you a full refund. So
Hmm.
I'm going in there like all brash and proud, going, I'm going to be Tony Robbins at his own game. And literally within 10 minutes, I was down the front with the platinum partners dancing and carrying on, and I'd found my tribe. And I'm not sure if your audience has been to a Tony Robbins event, but what I can describe it like, it's like a secular hill song. You go in the environment and you are assaulted by sound and visuals and then beautiful words coming out of his mouth. And what happened was I heard the right message at the right time of my life, and I was in the right room surrounded by the right people. And this is why events are so powerful. So I got complete with my trauma from the sexual abuse that had happened when I was younger. And there was this moment, and this is the shift of my life. There's this moment after a process that Tony Robbins does called the Dickens process, where I got complete with the trauma. And I had this idea that I'm like, if I'm going to progress, if I'm going to like move forward in life, then I need to forgive my abuser. It came to me like this. I hate using this term download. I'm not woo woo or anything, but it did. It was like this real kind of thing. And then so I sent out this forgiving energy, and I just said, hey, look, I don't know where you are, but for you to do that to a little boy, you must have been in a serious amount of pain. And for that, I forgive you. And then I don't have a reference point for what happened next, but it was the only language I can use is that it was biblical. And
Mm.
again, like I said, I'm not religious, but that's the only reference point I have. I had this whoosh go over my entire body, and suddenly I was light and free, and all of the weight of everything from the previous 25 years just disappeared. And what I understand now was that in forgiveness, I found a future. Because when
Mm.
I forgave him, I forgave myself for everything that I put myself through, my family through, and so on. And then I experienced what can only be described as pure, unadulterated joy for the first time since I was 6 years old. And I had tears streaming down my face. And I'm like, if I can get access to this level of joy without drugs or alcohol, like I was on pause. Hadn't really committed to giving up at that point. Then I'm never putting another mind altering substance in my body ever again. And I have not since. In fact, where it's May 9 right now when we're recording this, on May 23, will be 8 years since I gave up drugs and alcohol. And so the event and sorry, I just go back to that. It was like, I'm not putting drugs in my body ever again. And then there was all of this was in mind moments. It was very fast. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to recommit. Like I was really involved in social justice stuff and impact and stuff when I was in school. And I'd kind of shied away from it because I felt very unworthy of being in that space while I was using and all that sort of stuff. And so I'm like, you know what? People need this. They need this impact. They need whatever it is that I've just gotten. They need it. And so I made a commitment to make my life about impact from that point forward. And my business was born out of that. I ran to the back of the room. I purchased everything he had. I didn't even have a business idea at that point. I purchased his business mastery program, and it started this course of us doing some really cool things. Now, my first event that I ran in this industry, I got to be honest, one person showed up to. Um, and it was because I was so naive and green. I boosted a Facebook event. I was traveling for my work at that time. I boosted a Facebook event and it said 40 people were interested. So I thought that 40 people were coming. I
Yeah.
booked out the room and everything, and then one person showed up. Interestingly, though, one person showed up and I still made $20,000. And that just sparked the momentum. And so originally it was a coaching coaches who coach coaches business. I did 1.3 million in my first year. And then in my second year, we had our first $1 million event and we went on to build a $3.5 million business. I walked away from that business because it wasn't aligned with me anymore. And I went full tilt into the event side of things to support people with events because that's where my passion was. An event
Mhm.
changed my life, and I knew that it was the vehicle to change others as well.
I love it. Oh my gosh. So thank you for sharing your story with us and super reason again why events are so incredibly powerful. Now that you've moved into supporting others with crafting and creating their events, would you happen to share a story of where an event shifted someone's business that you've worked with?
Yeah. Well, look, there's countless of them. I think one of the ones that um, I speak that most highly of is a client from Australia. His name's Morgan. He's phenomenal. He's in the personal development space. And he came to us at a time when his events were going okay, but he was struggling with his conversions. And well, sorry, by his standards, he was struggling with his conversions. He was closing at about 30% of the room, which is pretty good by
That's
most.
really good compared to,
Really good.
yes.
Really good, really good. But I came in and we supported, and eventually we ended up doing like 1,000 person event. It wasn't at this event; it was one of the early events. But we got his conversion from 35% to 70%,
Wow.
and it was because of this pitch that we designed. That was a very soft pitch, and it was really interesting because he'd done all this amazing personal development work and everyone was G'd up and everything. And like he did all the energy stuff that Tony Robbins does, the dancing, all those sorts of things. He did like an arrow break and all the fun stuff like that. But he took the tone down and we designed this pitch where we had everyone sit around him and he talked about the tables that you sit at your life and the different things that that you get exposed to by the tables that you sit at. And he's like, I never want to sit at a table where I'm the smartest person, right? I want to be the dumbest person in the room. And he's like, I think of the tables that I sit at, I surround myself with phenomenal human beings because of the richness of the experience that they can provide me, and they can shortcut things. And his invitation was, he's like, I'd like to extend an opportunity for you to come and have a seat at my table. And he positioned it well. I'm abbreviating here, but everyone was just like, I'm in. I want to be around this. I need this. And so that's one. And another one that I just did recently, I'm really excited by this. So I was supporting a client, and the pitch didn't go too well on the first day. And then so that night when we're talking about what to do, I said, I think what we need to do is there's two different avatars in the room here. And we need to separate the avatars, and the people that are new to what you're doing need to have a conversation that's about where they're at right now. And then you've got some seven-figure plus people in the room that need to have a very different conversation. So let's split them up. I'll take the newbies, you take the really advanced people, and we'll do this. And we pulled an extra $300,000 out of the room immediately, and then an extra $200,000 out in the follow-up. And this is kind of like similar to Morgan's story, is that Morgan met everyone where they were at and was wanting a deep, deep, deep connection with him, right? And in this instance, we also met everyone in the room where they were at, and made sure that we were addressing them in a level that was not, the worthy is not the right word, that was appropriate for what they were going through. And I'm really proud of the way in which I conducted my side of things. And what we did was that we've now systemized that because of how well it went. And we've got our ultimate repitch framework, which is kind of like, it's evolved over the years, but this was really, really cool. And it's not just about those two clients though, right? Like you think about the people that are in those rooms, And then the invitation that they receive to do something that's maybe out of their comfort zone, it's maybe them stepping into a new version of themselves or taking a risk on their business. And then the ripple on effects of that as well. So yeah, they'd be my two kind of amazing examples. There's so many more. There's $1 million
Yeah.
events, there's all these different things, but those are two that kind of stick out for me.
Pick out. Yeah, I love that. What would you say is like a myth about hosting events? What's the biggest myth?
Uh, Everyone thinks that they're too complex and they're too much work. And like uh, they're not the easiest way to get clients. I'll be really straight up about that. They're absolutely not the easiest. But once you've got it dialed in, it's kind of like rinse and repeat.
The system.
Once you've got the system, like we have a 1 day selling system, where we share with people that you can do more sales calls at an event in one
Mhm.
day than most people struggle to get in an entire year,
Yep.
which is insane. And so one event can be the equivalent of, I don't know, 10, 20, 50, 100, or Tony Robbins, 1.25 million at his most recent virtual event, sales calls all at once. And
Yeah.
you don't get that kind of leverage elsewhere. So I think whilst people think that they are complex, what they're missing is what's on the other side of the initial input. And the initial input, yeah, absolutely. There's a bit of lift because you got to train yourself, you got to fill the room, design it and everything. But once it's done, like Tony Robbins, there's no complexity to what he does anymore at all. It is
Nope.
a system and it just rinses and repeats, rinses and repeats, rinses and then repeats. And so I guess one of the things that I want people to walk away with is that myth, like to bust that myth out, is that yes, there is some work, but I don't think it's complex. I think it's necessary. And
Yep.
if you're really committed to the impact that you want, like it's a small burden to wear initially to be able to have that impact over time. And if you work with the right people, plug for you, Shay, and plug for me, we simplify that down. One
Mhm.
of the things I'm most proud of is that because of my training background, and I'm an instructional designer by trade, right? Like I know how to train people. And one of the things I'm really proud of is the IP that we have. I have our biggest competitors coming to us after they've seen our IP and says, "Crap, like this shit's all over ours." And the reason that it's so good is because I've boiled down to the core essence of what needs to be done and removed all of the fluff. And it's kind of paint by numbers.
Mhm.
And it kind of makes it easier for people when it's like that. It's not some theoretical thing. It's very, very practical. That's the other thing, just something to think about with events too, is a little bit off the question, but most people think of events as a presentation where they're just like presenting at people.
Yeah.
But when an event, a sales event is actually a facilitation, and your job is to help people leave the event smarter than when they arrived. And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that they've consumed information. It means that they've embodied it, meaning they've actually gotten to work. We say that we want people to leave with the work done and not a to-do list. And a lot
Yep.
of people feel really like they're kind of stingy with their IP and they think, oh no, I need to hold on to it. And then later on, they can get it in my program. But the way I look at it is you give everything at your event. You want to kind of show them just how powerful you are. And then people go, man, this is amazing. And then I want to work with that person to go further on. If they want to leave with what the work that they've done, that's okay as well. Not everyone's ready to buy, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's why we're so aligned is we believe the same thing in that regards is whether or not they do business with you, they're still walking away. So there is an event promise that they walk away with something. And
absolutely.
what is that? And being intentional that whether or not they do business, they are still walking away with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
And what they're paying for in your program and your offer is to go there quicker and faster with support and accountability and not having to, muck things up along the way
yeah,
because you can only teach so much in a 1 day, a 3 day event.
yeah, that's right.
You're gonna miss things. And there's a reason we have a program is because it's gonna take time,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Here's
That's
the
right.
framework, here's what you can do. Go ahead, try.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you want the support and get there faster, cool, come with us. We'll
yeah.
support you in it,
Yeah,
right? That's why I love it.
1000%. Here's the other thing as well. So I think also this is maybe another myth is that I need to be a really good salesperson to be able to sell from stage.
Yeah.
And also selling is slimy and sleazy. We've kind of been ruined a little bit and we've got a bit of a bad rap as an industry because of the old straight line sellers like pressure, 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 buy, 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 run to the
Or
back of the room.
the
If you don't do
the
this, you're a piece of crap.
sales. right? Where it's like one person, next person, and everybody's selling something. It's
Yes,
like, oh
yes,
my
yes.
gosh, no.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I'm really clear that there's only like one person really selling at my events, and that's me. I might have one other speaker that I allow to sell from my stage, but I'm really cognizant of the fact that the people in the room, they're not just there to be milked, and we don't want them to just like yeah, we don't want them all to open their wallets and just throw money everywhere because, well, we don't want it to appear like that. Obviously we want the money, right? But we're not pumping them for everything that they're worth. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of just signing up anyone with a credit card and a heartbeat, and that's not how we do things at our events anyway. I call this, I take people up to what I call the line of decision demarcation. And what that is that people are afraid to make decisions. And so it's our job to facilitate them making the right decision for them. Now, that may mean that they get up to the line of decision demarcation and step forward and make that decision. It also might mean that they step back. I'll give you an example. I was we do some JVs with people as well. So I'll co-facilitate their event. I'll do the pitch from stage and so on. And so I was selling at this client's event, and there was one particular woman that I was having an objection handling conversation with, and I handled every objection. There was no which way that she could have gotten out of at that point saying yes because I had handled everything. But what happened was her fear was driving the conversation. So we
Mm,
got up to this line of decision demarcation, and I saw it in her eyes, and I just said, you know what? I actually cannot sell this to you. I'm not going to sell this offer to you. The look of shock on her face, followed by immediate relief, was palpable. And she's like, what, wait, why? And I'm like, because you're not ready for it. Like your fear right now is driving you. We've spent 20 minutes having a conversation. By the way, everyone, I'm having a conversation with all of you as I'm doing this. I hope you notice that. And right now it's not the right thing for you. And she burst into tears and
mm,
she's like, thank you. And then funnily enough, three other people purchased because I took the offer away from her.
mm,
So this is about doing things with integrity and not being like those people that are out there just pumping people for cash. We stand for people to change their lives. We stand for them to have transformation. Everything we do is in the service of having a genuine impact on people's lives. And so we do that through how we sell to people, but also through some of the philanthropic stuff we do at our events as well. And we'll get to that too.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I do want to switch gears. All right,
Sure.
so switch your brain and let's take a look at AI, automation, and events and the future of it. So, how do you see AI transforming events?
I think AI is going to make events better. And I think that like one of the things that many years ago, Tony Robbins bought an AI company, and he bought a holographic company. And he was feeding everything that he'd done for 40 years into this AI. And then basically people were scared that he wasn't going to be running his events anymore. And
Uh-huh.
that's not what's happened. He's still running his events, but now everyone has access to coaching from Tony on an app, basically. And it's his voice and it's really cool and everything. So that's an example of how AI can take things from events, so take your stuff and make them more available, more widely accessible. What we've done is a little bit different. So we know that AI adds additional brain power to things that we may not see. And it's an adjunct, it's an enhancement. So what we did is we put all of our IP into our AI, and it's got everything that I've ever said on events in there. And what we've created is what I call Events Expert AI. And it literally will take information about our clients and help them produce their marketing, their event, their offer, and their pitch within a week of them starting with us, which is insane. So the time to first value has just shrunk dramatically. So
Like,
how we do this is what I want to share with you. So we know our audience really well, and we've used AI to help enhance, for example, our landing pages, all of those sorts of things, our ads, etc., etc. Somebody registers for one of our events. Immediately after they register, they speak to a voice agent. That voice agent collects data from them on their business. So I understand everyone that's going to be in my room, all of their hopes, dreams, fears, frustrations, pain points, where their business is at. And so I can start segmenting and getting data and what they want to get out of it. I also get information on their ideal clients as well, their avatars, all of that sort of stuff as well. So I have two data sets at this point. I go into my AI, it knows all of my events like back to front, right? And it goes all the different modules and things that I teach. Day one, on a 3-day event that we do, day one is all about marketing. Our people leave with their marketing done and their event launched at the end of day one. Day two is all about event design, and we call it the event content creator. And then we design their event. They leave that day with their event designed and ready to facilitate. And day three is all about making offers and selling from stage. And they leave day three with the offer done and ready to pitch. And we gamify it a bit. We have competitions about who can register the most people into their event by the end of our event. But what our AI does is that I go to it and I say, okay, cool. Here's everything we do. Here's everyone coming. We've got all of this data. Tell me what stories I need to tell at what point in our emotional arc at the event, based on the people that are in the room. It knows all of my stories. Tell me what notes I need to hit, the themes. Tell me the type of case studies that I need to bring up in order for people to feel like, they are seen and heard in the right spot. And it does a phenomenal job at it, better than I ever could. And it's based on my stuff, so it's just an enhancement, right? It's not a
Right.
replacement. And then from there, what happens is that at the event, we do hot seats with people and we do the same sorts of things with them. Say, for example, we'll pull somebody up on stage and we'll design their event marketing in 5 seconds flat based on the information they've already provided us. Then when people purchase our offer at our events, they get access to the AI and they'll be able to, and for most of them, what happens initially is we give them the marketing straight away. And say, look, based on all the information you gave us before the event, here's your marketing for your next event. And then they go in, they tweak it and adjust it and those sorts of things. And then throughout the journey with us, as they work with us, we put all of their content through the AI. It does the same sorts of things. We help them with designing an offer that fits for their avatar. And eventually I'm getting to a point with our AI where it's going to be it's going to have an avatar of me, and they're going to be able to go to it 24/7 to get live coaching on their stuff with their event. So if you think about service delivery for clients, amazing
Yeah.
if they get access 24/7. Reduces our service delivery costs as well. I'll still always have people involved, but it'll just reduce the number, and it'll change the way that people think about events. One of the other really, really cool things is that the AI is also not just limited to what we feed it. It has other insights from other areas, its knowledge base as well. So where there are gaps or things that we don't see, it comes in and it highlights them and provides feedback and those sorts of things as well. So we're taking it to the next level as well. So there's a company called Simple Check that um, it does a soft pull on people's credit before they come to your event. So you get an understanding of who's in the room, the amount of money they have in their accounts, the credit, their credit score, all of these sorts of things. And then we have another company that called In the Room Live that does RFID tracking at events. And basically on your name tag, you have an RFID chip, and then so basically they know where everyone is at any given time, and you can send individual messages on your event app or by text based on where people are. So combining all of these together, what it does is that it uses this AI machine learning based on what we know about the people that are in the room, the where they are in their financial journey, and also where they are specifically located. And at our event later this year, I'm probably giving away all of my secrets here. This is kind of, I feel like I'm giving too much, which is probably the right thing to do. You should always feel like you're giving away too much. But it allows us to really ensure that every single person in the room is having the right experience for where they are at. And so, for example, when I sell, just before I sell, what we're doing is we're putting all of the people that we know have money in one area of the room before I sell. And so they've got specified tables. We have all the people that need credit to be able to purchase in another area of the room, and all the people that aren't a fit in another area of the room. And when we make the offer from stage, we're going to send them to 3 different areas. And the reason we're doing that is because the people that that are ready to buy now, that have the money, I don't want them to be poisoned by a conversation with somebody that doesn't have cash, right? And I want them to be really happy about the purchase and all of those sorts of things. And then the people that need finance, they're all having the same conversation. And then the people that maybe aren't quite ready yet are having a conversation that's relevant to where they're at and inviting them to do other things that might not be joining our programs. And then if people are not in the room, I can send salespeople to targeted people based on based on where they are. Say, hey, Joe Blogs over here, I know he's running this event. He's told me in his thing he's doing this thing, but he's not in the room for the pitch. Go out and have a conversation with him now. And so all of this stuff comes together at providing better outcomes for them, because we know that they have challenges that need to be resolved. And if they're not in the room, right, when that happens, then they're going to miss that opportunity. For us, it creates amazing financial upside because we really meet people where they're at financially. And it gives us an opportunity to really curate the experience of the event that no one else really has access to.
Yeah, I
And
think
so,
it's the curation piece that makes it, that is totally setting it apart, right? You are meeting people where they're at and having the conversation that best supports them on their own next best step
yeah,
versus doing it a blanket across the room. And
yeah,
you would run into the situation like your other client you were mentioning earlier of, had we not broken them apart and you're talking in general,
yeah,
half the room's not going to pay attention because you're only speaking to one audience or whatever. But now
yeah,
we're curating it for each individual group so it best serves where they are and their next best step, which I think
yeah.
is really different than somebody that's like, oh, I'm just going to put on an event and treat everybody the same, when in reality, they're not the same.
Yeah, that's right. And talking about curation for a second, I might tangent this slightly, but
Yeah.
it's kind of related to conversion and AI and all that sort of stuff. I think that people do a really bad job at events of curating the end-to-end experience of the participants. And most people just stuff them in a room and then present their stuff and then make them buy their stuff, or try and make them buy their stuff.
Right.
For me, at my events, I want people to feel like they have entered a different world when they walk through the door. What that looks like is me paying very, very close attention to every touch point that they have with us. So for an example, our event later this year is called Impact, and the tagline is Revolutions Disguised as Gatherings. That Revolutions Disguised as Gatherings is really like a paying homage to every single event that's happened throughout history. What I'm trying to do is elevate the events in our industry, and I hate using this term, but make events great again is kind of what I'm trying to
You've
do,
been
right?
there.
Mega, 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 right? That's what we're trying to do. But I want people to be in a category of one in their niche, right? And I want their event to become viral so that everyone at the event is promoting their event. If you think of like Funnel Hacking Live, it's in a, like they don't do it anymore, but so they say. But it's in a category of one, right? And people make that event go viral. Everyone's posting and all that sort of stuff. For us, Impact is going to have people literally walking into a different world. It's a blend of, I'm going to teach everything that I know about events, of course, but I'm going to invite them to really look at the world differently, and the role in which they play in transforming people by the words that come out of their mouth. So what
Right.
that means for us is that in the registration, I'm going to have vertical TVs kind of coming in, and getting a little bit closer. It's going to like point through to the registration desk. And then on each of those TVs, it's going to have a message that is really powerful. And so the first one might be revolutions disguised as gatherings. The next one will be visuals of human beings smiling and doing beautiful things. And there might be another message as well. And as people walk closer, it's going to leave them with a sense that, hang on, this is a little bit different. Then when they get to the event, for example, our sponsor zone, we're calling it a transformation hub, all of our sponsors will be required to create an activation zone,
Which is
meaning that everyone is having an experience. There's 5 anchors that need to be hit for conversion at events. That's the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. So they must hit at least 2 of those anchor points. I would prefer them to have 3 or 4, but olfactory and gustatory are hard. So,
yeah,
right, smell
right.
and
Well, we
taste.
don't want a whole bunch of smells going all over the
No,
place. So
no.
yeah.
But a sponsor could sponsor bringing in a coffee experience, for example,
Right.
right? And
Fresh
us
white
paying the
cookie.
fine to the venue. Fresh coffee, it's an artistic thing. It's a coffee roasting type experience, and the sponsor gets, the credit for bringing that in. By the way, your sponsors should be paying for these experiences. And say, for example, it costs $7,000 to bring the coffee in. You should be charging your sponsor $21,000, $28,000 for having that touch point, because especially with coffee as an example, you get pretty much every single person as traffic coming past. So that's like a really valuable thing for people to have. But what I'm trying to do here as well is that I'm trying to show respect to the participants at the same time.
Mhm.
I don't want them coming in and just feeling like they're being bombarded with information. They could be anywhere else. They've already invested money to come. They're investing time to come. They're investing opportunity cost as well because they are out of their business.
Right.
Right? And so they're making an assessment that this is going to be, I'm going to get a good return on impact from being here. I'd call it return on impact. It's not the same as return on investment. The reason for that is because of the impactful nature of events and what we can actually create from that. And we also do that through philanthropy as well, which we can get to later. And so every touch point that we have with our participants is carefully curated with what emotion do I want them feeling at the end of this?
Yeah.
In the way in which we design activities, in the dinners that we create, the party that we have, our superhero party is not just going to be come in and get boozed up. It's going to be come in and have an experience that elevates you into the superhero that you really are. Funnily enough, I'm wearing a superhero
I
shirt.
think that might be one of the things that people miss is they go, oh, well, I went to an event and they ended up doing a party on the night of day one. And you're like, yeah, what, and why did mine flop? Well, because you didn't actually know the purpose and intention behind it and how we're curating it and why we're doing it and what are the little nuances underneath it that
Yeah.
made it successful for us and made it a flop for you. If you're just trying to go in and say, oh, I'm going to do a party on the night of day one and I'm going to make an offer on day two. I'm going to repitch on day three, but you don't actually understand the arc and how we set things up in the first place. It's not going to work. It's not as rinse and repeat as you think it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And it also just like, I go back to this whole respect thing, right?
Mm.
It's when you put intention into something, you get intention from people. And that's what we want. We want their intentionality to come out in terms of the impact that they want to create. Their impact might be as simple as I want to make lots of money and I want to help people make lots of money. Great. I want
Maybe.
that as well. Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, right? But if it comes from a place of I'm truly serving and I've had this incredible experience, I want to take this message out to the world rather than buy my shit, buy my shit, buy my shit, I'm much more inclined to engage with that. And I think other people are as well.
Yeah. I do want it to move us into the philanthropy piece
Sure.
and what does beyond impact mean to you and your philanthropy side?
Yeah, so I've always been a bit of a social justice warrior, as I kind of mentioned. I had this experience when I was 10 years old. My parents are Buddhist, and we went on our first ever overseas trip to Burma. And we went on a religious pilgrimage, and I ordained as a Buddhist monk. I'm not religious now, but it's the religion I most closely identify with. It's shaped my values. My top three values are integrity, honesty, and generosity. There's experience, monks go on this, what's called an alms round. They have a big black bowl and they walk around and people donate to them. They donate food, they put it in an envelope with money for the monastery. They're not allowed to touch the money themselves. And when we were in Burma, it was in the 1990s, and it was a big deal for people from the West to come in. Like they were still under the military junta rule. And so for us to be there, the community in Rangoon where we were really came out in support of us, which it was very, very fascinating because we relatively rich white people coming into one of the poorest countries in the world. And we have this thing where we go on this arms round and people are lining the streets so happy and celebratory to give us stuff, right? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw this woman and we weren't supposed to make eye contact, but she was standing back a little bit. By the time I got there, she'd kind of walked her way up to the front. I think she'd seen me as well. And she put into my arms bowl, she put food in there. And I looked up at her and I did make eye contact with her, and she was frail as all hell. She was skin and bones. And I remember having this really clear thought at the time. I'm like, you know what? I remember feeling like this is not fair. And what I realized later in life is that I had my first sense of injustice. I was this relatively wealthy by comparison. We were working class at the time, but like by comparison, we were rich, really. And she was giving what I can only imagine was probably some of the last food that she had to me. So it really shaped my view around, the world. I became very aware of different social issues and whatnot. Fast forward me coming out of all of my drug haze where I wasn't doing anything around this and committing to my life being about impact. Beyond Impact, which is the name of our actual core company. Our front company is called eventsconsulting.co, but the legal name is Beyond Impact. And why I chose that name was because I don't want my work to just be about the people's lives that I'm impacting in the room. I want my work to be about the lives that ripple out from that. And how we do that is by giving. We have this statement in our business: what if every time we do business, something good happens in the world? And I learned this from a dear friend who actually just, her and her husband, Paul and Masami from B1G1, Buy One, Give One. They're our philanthropy partners. I learned this: what if every time we can do business, something good happens in the world? They have an amazing thing where they embed giving into normal everyday business events. So say, for example, you send an email, an API picks that up and a meal gets donated
Wow.
automatically. So
Yeah.
what we did with our events was we started at that $1 million event. One thing, it was called Impact, the event, and what I'm really excited about later this year, Impact, the live in person event. I'm actually doing similar things. Like I'm doing the event that I always wanted to do live in the pandemic, and we did it virtually. I'm spinning it back up and doing it in person. So what happened was every single time somebody was touched, moved, and inspired at the event, they had a breakthrough, they just wanted to do good, they would type the word impact into the chat. We would stop what we were doing. We'd bring them up on stage. We'd celebrate. They would tell us about the impact, what happened for them. And then we'd celebrate by donating. So we would give like 3 weeks of clean drinking water, or they'd be rescuing a child from sex trafficking, or something along those lines, planting trees to combat climate change. And it created a different environment at the event where we were beyond just thinking about ourselves in the room, and we
Mhm.
were creating a vision that was much wider. I believe from a mission point of view, there were three things that constitute a mission. The first is the impact that you're having every single day with the people that you serve. So impact. The second part of mission is wealth. You get velocity from wealth creation. I believe that money is an instrument of change. And for all of its faults, capitalism is the single best monetary system we have. It's lifted more people out of poverty than all of the other monetary systems combined. And then the last piece of this puzzle is like what you do with that money counts. And that's the contribution side of things. So I want to be like, I think it's our duty to be filthy rich. So not that we can hoard the money, but like Bill Gates just announced that in the next 20 years, he's giving all of his $200 billion fortune away.
Wow.
So I want people to be inspired by that and to have missions that are associated with this. And so that's kind of what we do. Just to give people some understanding, 80% of the world's population live on less than $10 per day, which
That's
is
crazy.
insane, right?
Yeah.
20% of, sorry, 75% of the world's wealth is concentrated in the top 20%. And 4 years ago, and it's much bigger now, I need to get some updated stats, but 4 years ago, the top 1% had 5 times more wealth than the bottom 80% combined. That means we have some work to do.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
don't want to castigate the people, the 1%. They've earned that, right? They've done great work. But there's got to be we need to do better. And so if I can be an example of that, if I can contribute in some way, and we haven't even gotten into my space event, to the superhero business, then
We'll have to do that on another podcast,
yeah, I
because
think
that
so.
on
I
its
think
own is like a whole conversation.
it
You know,
is.
we've had some conversations, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely want to
Mm.
do that one again.
Yeah, sounds good. I would love to do that. But yeah, just like a last piece on this for anyone that's listening right now, I said I don't think that people realize the depth of impact that they can have. And the reason why I love events so much is because it's just an amplification of that impact. Rather than having sitting on 40 sales calls a week or whatever it is that someone sits on, I would much prefer to put 40, 50, 100 people in a room and take them on an experience that culminates in a sales conversation, as opposed to just having these boring, monotonous. Don't get me wrong, we still do sales calls, but I much prefer to be on stage. It's much more powerful.
Yeah.
And one, just something for people that are maybe nervous about being on stage. Uh, what you will find after your first event is that you actually leave the event more energized than when you started. It happens to every single one of our
Every
clients.
time.
And the
Yeah.
participants and the attendees feel like they're getting all of the amazingness. But what they maybe don't understand is just how much you're learning in the process and how much it fills up your cup and enriches you as a human being as well. So hopefully that encourages people to do events. Hire Shay.
Yeah, let us handle all the logistics and details behind the scenes for sure.
And then
Um,
hire me as well, so I can help out with the design and this pitch.
exactly. That's why we're a winning combination for sure.
Yeah.
Brody, this has just been so incredibly amazing and dynamic. I love the conversation. I love your insight from practical event strategies to the visionary thinking side, creating activations and everything in between. I'm really excited about, how we can utilize AI going forward. You've really shown us what creating powerful impact looks like. So before you leave us today, what is the best way for somebody to connect with you? And do you happen to have a gift for our audience today?
I do. You can reach me on all socials as Brody Lee Live, or just my Instagram. I'm starting from scratch again, so it's got like 0 followers at the moment. So if you could follow me, that would be really helpful. And I think it's Brody Lee on Facebook. And that's kind of Facebook's where I do most of my content. So yeah, you can reach to me there. You can go to eventsconsulting.co. And there's 3 things I want to give the audience, 3 things that I'm going to give them access to. So the first one is we've just released a new training on the AI-powered selling system that's doing phenomenal results for our clients and doing amazing things like the repitch and all that sort of stuff, and allowing us to really enhance, like a really cool, I just did a repitch for a client where we fed all information from the participants live at the event into our AI, and it spat out a script that we were able to use for the repitch, and we extracted an extra $75,000 out of the room that they'd left on the table.
Amazing.
This training will kind of lift a little bit like that. We're going to give you access to my $1 Million Events book as well. And in addition to that, a preview. If you want to talk about our impact event, let us know. There'll be some information provided specifically about that at the bottom as well. So we would love to host you. It would be lots of fun.
So fun. Come hang out with us and learn more about events. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today, Brody. We'll do another one to talk about space and superheroes and thinking bigger for sure. And I want to thank our listeners for joining us. Make sure that you connect with Brody, grab all of his amazing gifts, explore his programs, come see us at the event later today. And if this episode inspired you, please share it, subscribe to Creating Powerful Impact, and leave us a review. Until next time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you all very soon. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.